Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. And you know, when it's Saturday, you're going to see this guy each and every Saturday, the one and only, the legend. We're trying to get him not to move. The one and only, the great Johnny Guitars is with us. Johnny's been with me for many, many years, nearly close to 2 decades, where we go around and talk about the state of the NFL. Johnny, the Raiders got some gumption. They got some competitive nature in Geno Smith, and they got a little fire. I'd love your thoughts on the latest with Geno.
Big story. Geno Smith coaching some kids, getting into it, chirping back and forth with some people that were there. A little bit strange. It's just one of those things where you can't really turn off that competitive nature. The video made it look like Geno Smith was maybe getting overly competitive, which is the point where somebody is into it to the point where it's taken away from the experience. But I think that when you look at it from a bigger picture and you look at it considering the age you are, this may or may not stand out as a normal or not normal thing. We have such an access now because everybody's phone has a camera. We're getting to see things we never saw. What I mean by that is we didn't see Sam Huff. We didn't see some of the greats of the old days, what they did in their free time or how competitive they were outside of the NFL. People like to tell stories. Stories are fine. Maybe they tell stories that are more favorable to them. But when you saw this, you said, why is Geno Smith this fired up for a recreational game during the summer? And if you're a Raider fan, you said, hey, this guy should not have any problem at all getting on fire when at times come to play. Look what he did in the middle of the summer coaching these kids.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot made about it that people were trying to make negative about Geno. I didn't take it that way at all.
I took it as a reflection on the times. So while it may seem a little inappropriate to some, while it may seem like Geno was being overly competitive, I actually took it as a reflection on the times that we're in and the nature of the players that are playing the game now. It's kind of a snapshot, and I realize it may not be for everybody, but at the same time, it was not an ill nature. That's another thing that stands out. You know, this wasn't ill-natured at all. This is just kind of the way the trash talk goes these days, if you will.
I agree. John, the NFL, there was an article recently that I thought was fascinating on Pro Football Talk, but basically talked about collusion flows from the fact that the NFL franchises are independent businesses. You're an attorney. Go into some detail on this, would you?
It's a story that you really can't find many places, so it's a good thing to discuss. I think the short of it was explained pretty well by PFT, and it's the idea that the owners in the NFL should be doing what's best for their team in order to win. And as 32 separate independent businesses, that should be what they're doing. What they should not be ever considering is, what do the other owners of NFL teams want? And that's where you get potentially collusion, you get discussion of collusion. It is something that'll be interesting because as it cooks up and ramps up again, and of course we've seen it in past, it's been maybe some decades, but we've seen some real issues with it in the NFL's history. You look now at what do the broadcast partners do? Because the broadcasters for the NFL are less independent than ever, and they're trending like the rest of the sports world to really be more broadcast partners than people who pay the rights to broadcast and speak maybe more independently. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of coverage on this. And if we do, it's going to be NFL tailored. But it is interesting anytime you look at the NFL on a pretty regular basis to think, is there any collusion? Has there been any collusion that goes on? I think from a legal perspective, they practically can get away with it until they don't. There's a lot that they can do to collude and get away with it as NFL owners, given the way they're set up. And as long as they get away with it and stay quiet, I don't know that we'll ever see this stop. This is a tough one for the Players Association, but as you've talked about some of the labor issues that are coming, this will be interesting to see if this ends up being one of them.
John, the Steelers have gone out this offseason and done completely non-Steeler things. I mean, a lot of different pieces and big pieces. I'd love your thoughts on what the Steelers have done this offseason.
It looks like they're swinging big and swinging now, doesn't it? It looks to me like they're doing the best they can, understanding the division they're in. There is one team that's not much of a threat in that division. There are two teams that are serious threats and also potentially Super Bowl threats that they've got to beat. When you look at what they've done, it's interesting because it kind of takes them head on when you're talking about the Bengals and you're talking about the Ravens. When you look at what the Steelers have done extending their general manager, it tells you that the seat isn't really hot there. He just got extended. So the idea that there may be some massive regime change in Pittsburgh, it seems less likely as we get into July than it did maybe a month or two ago. And then you've got the TJ Watt situation, which is most interesting to a lot of Steeler fans. He's a guy that when you look at him, you think this is a guy that's going to finish his career as a Steeler. And that's a nice thought, and it's a cliche. I wonder how true it is. You know, his brother did not finish his career in Houston. He didn't play his whole career with Houston. People sometimes forget that he was in Arizona. I wonder what TJ Watt is looking for here. Is he looking to win championships and leave a legacy, or is he looking to get his big bag, if you will? If he's looking to get the big bag, you wonder what kind of market he's going to face when he gets there. If he wants to stay a Steeler, the answer is there. So what I'm looking for is what do they do between now and the end of training camp? Is there something that happens with TJ Watt? It's really natural to think he's going to get extended. It's really natural to think they want to keep him there as the cornerstone. But maybe there's a wild card. Maybe it's too cliche. Maybe we're overlooking it too much that TJ Watt might want to test the waters and go elsewhere.
John, I was shocked that Darren Waller's coming out of retirement. It shocked me. For a lot of different reasons. Do you have any thoughts on that?
We just talked about this the last time we were together, which was interesting because there was an article about Waller starting his music career and some of the reasons that he was walking away from football. When I saw this news, it was a surprise. There's a lot of surprises going on in Miami with the Dolphins. That's a separate issue that we can talk about another day because there's a lot going on there. I wonder for Waller if it's simply the fact that $5 million is on the line. It's very hard to make $5 million doing anything on this planet. So how many people can honestly say no? Gets an offer to go to what I presume is a better situation for him. You're looking at $5 million. It's a really big income to turn down. If you could wonder naturally, how long will this be? Might there be an issue with his motivation to stick it out? Might he be durable? That would be maybe more my concern. But I figure most of that's taken care of in the contract language. So I am surprised, as you are. We didn't do this story with any idea that this was going to happen. I think we are going to keep tabs on this. Let's see how he gets through the toughest part of camp. I mean, what is his body like 3 weeks into camp? This will be interesting. There's not a long record, a history of this kind of return going very well. It's going to be weird to see. It'll be interesting to watch.
Raiders rival Broncos have a TE of interest.
Folks, we know who's in this division. This is a big division, as you know. A lot of coaches, a lot of success, a lot of Super Bowls. What is he doing? What is Sean Payton doing? Don't sleep on Sean Payton. Went out and got a very tall tight end with a basketball background. I believe the guy played 50-some snaps. That's it in college. He's from the University of Utah, 6'7", 250. If that sounds familiar, well, it's a basketball size, and of course you're thinking about Jimmy Graham. So there's a lot of attention, of course, on Kansas City. There's plenty of attention on the Chargers because so many people with the Raiders want to watch everything the Chargers do, and that's fine. Let's not sleep on the Broncos. They quietly maybe overachieved beyond some expectations last year. Now Sean Payton is seeing whether he can boot up Jimmy Graham 2.0. He's looking to get an absolute mismatch at the tight end position, whether it's just goal line or whether it's short yardage. This is interesting. The point is, you can't sleep on Sean Payton. Something tells me all his knowledge from his whole career in football, including his time off, it's all in there now. So whatever punches he can pull, he's going to pull them. This one he kind of pulls almost out of nowhere. I mean, he goes and finds a guy that must have a certain skill set, that must have a certain way he can move to convince him to waste or spend this much time to bring this guy into Broncos camp. The Broncos have a tight end who we will not be able to miss. If he makes that 53-man, he's going to be quite tall, and we will be keeping an eye on him because Sean Payton's thinking, hey, maybe I can get me another outstanding tight end who comes from a basketball background.
John, I love Marcus Mariota, always have. I'm not friends with him per se. I know him, been around him. Him and I do share, though, some very good personal friends. And again, I've been around him enough to get a feel of the person he is. I really like this guy. But I have been impressed on his mentality with being a backup. This is exactly what you want. Give me your thoughts on Mariota, please.
Mariota, pleased to go back to Washington. And right now, this is a really solid backup. I mean, you're talking about more than a decade. You're talking about a guy that was picked, I believe, number 2 in the draft. So, ironically enough, the same as Jaden Daniels. And it's a guy that knows his role and he's embraced it. And I think what they have in Washington is a little bit interesting right now because what you've seen is the offensive coordinator appears to be committed to staying there through Jaden Daniels' rookie deal. You've got a backup that appears to be committed to stay there during Jaden Daniels' rookie deal. So there are some pieces in place at the foundational level that are supporting Jaden Daniels. He's never had to worry about a backup looking over his shoulder, a backup trying to break through in an organization that has that history. I know it's a long time ago, different characters, different players, but it's still got to enter your mind. Jaden Daniels knows what happened with Kirk Cousins and Robert Griffin. He has to. So you take all that out of the equation. What I think you've seen is a really fine maturation process for Marcus Mariota's career. And also, I'm impressed because when he had a end of year early and get a surgery, you think maybe that's it. That was a couple years ago. So this is a valuable asset because we know how dangerous, because we know how damaging the quarterback position is. There's a really good chance that Jaden Daniels is going to miss some snaps at some point during this season, if not miss weeks. Washington's in a pretty good situation with a really solid backup quarterback. To me, it's almost the prototype backup right now is something like Mariota with his experience, his knowledge, his calm. We should not undervalue it, and we also have to keep in mind you got to have 2 quarterbacks that can start games in the NFL if you're going to have a really successful team.
Agree. Hey, John, last thing I want to hit you with today, but you can't spell Jason Pierre-Paul without Resolve. What a story.
No, you resolve. No, it's a difficult story. Most people remember it. July 4th fireworks gone wrong. What an impressive way to not only handle that, but resolve and persevere. And he still wants to play. It's a really incredible story. The guy has fingers blown off. I remember how fast he came back. I was like, wow, that's a whole lot of resolve for a lot of, these guys are unbelievable humans as far as their athletic ability. Then they're put on the biggest stage in sports with incredible money, incredible fame. He's playing in a big market. And he does something off the field that could have ruined his career and ruined his life. And he found a way to work through it without any kind of downfall, any kind of excuse, any kind of blame. It's almost like a textbook example of how to handle such a situation. He's talked about the value of teaching his kids, hey, be careful. Let's make sure something like that doesn't happen. But if it does, there's a way to power through it. Now, football-wise, listen, if he's hired to rush the passer and he can still physically do it, we all know he's going to get a call at some point. It may be early. It may be in camp. It may be after somebody goes down. But it's pretty impressive if this is the end of his career or not. When you think about just his career after losing the fingers and everything he accomplished, you cannot find a whole lot of guys with more resolve than Jason Pierre-Paul. There's probably a lot of guys out of the NFL who are a whole lot less fussing, fuming, blaming people, a little bit bitter. This is an incredible story, taking a really bad self-inflicted tragedy, turning it on its head, going on to have a fantastic career, and still looking to line up and go sack somebody this fall.
Yeah, I agree. John, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
I'm still on X at JP Spartan. You all know what the calendar says. You know how many weeks. You know what's coming. We're going to get you ready.
And don't forget, everybody, you can follow me on X when you go to @HondoCarpenter, on Threads and IG at HondoSR. And as always, si.com/NFL/Raiders. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, John.